I'm Jared Fry, General Manager of Medina TV.
Hi, and I'm Jacqueline Rinksmeyer, Executive Director of the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce. The mission of the Chamber of Commerce is to serve our member investors and promote business interests through economic development, business advocacy, and member services, which benefits the Greater Medina community. The Chamber is funded by voluntary membership from the business community. It is a not-for-profit, nonpartisan business organization, and we do not receive tax dollars to operate the organization. The Chamber does not endorse candidates, but strives to educate the voters on both the candidates and the issues. And we are pleased to partner with Medina TV to bring these interviews to you. This program would not be possible without this collaboration. So thank you to our interviewer, Jared Fry, and our producer, Matt Tomick.
And as always, the views expressed in these interviews do not necessarily reflect those of Medina TV or the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce. We thank you for tuning in to the 2022 Candidates Forum and remind you to vote on November 8th. Joining us now in studio is Matthew Diemer. He's the congressional candidate for the 7th District. Matthew, thank you for joining us here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, a pleasure. Why don't you start off first by just talking to the viewers and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Matthew Diemer, and I am running for House 7th Congressional District. And the reason why I wanted to run in this race is a couple of things. Number one is I truly think we need good candidates in Washington. I think that we need to have people that are looking out for their district. I think being a representative is number one. I think that we have this grandiose thing where people run for these offices trying to be mini presidents, talking about big, broad issues, but not talking about our district. I think there's a lot of problems in Washington with, insider stock trading. I think we just need people in there that wants to just do good for the district. And also, I, lived abroad for a while, and I saw that there was a huge rise in a middle class when it came to China, for example, and jobs weren't there, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. And when I came back to the United States and back to Northeast Ohio, I saw the middle class gutted. I saw jobs, going away. There's manufacturing everywhere but here, and this is what we're built on in Ohio. We build things. We always have. And so part of the things I really want to do is, have that new industrial renaissance that I think that we're starting to see now and bring it back here to Ohio. And we're seeing that like the Intel plant. We just heard that GM is going to start making more EVs here. I think that just came out today. We have solar over in Toledo. We have a battery plant in Lorain. And so there's so much potential, and I'm excited to be part of that.
And take a moment, too, to kind of explain for the viewers and our residents that don't have the luxury of knowing exactly what happens in Congress. So what does this role actually do?
Well, so this role is going to be doing a couple of things. One, it's going to be earmarking a lot of money to come to the district. And I think the biggest way that we need to do that, I think that we should be doing that, is reaching across the aisle, uniting and not dividing. I think that the one thing that we see when people get into this office, they legislate for one party. And so we have, then if they do that, let's just say you're a Republican. Democrats are then unhappy. Say if you're a Democrat, Republicans are then unhappy. What I want to do when I go to Washington is make sure that we bring people together, make sure that we're finding solutions for the district, and then taking those solutions to Washington, D.C., which I think is the major role of this job, and creating solutions for the district. And I'm going to do that across party lines. I'm going to do that across any ideology. And the first thing I'm going to do when I go to office is I'm going to go to every community, every city, and go to the Republican clubs, the Democrat clubs, any kind of thing in the middle, and make sure that we're talking and finding solutions.
And that's a great question you bring up there. And your answer is, right now there seems to be a lot of political division that's going on.
There is.
How do you see that alleviating anytime soon, or what do you think can be done to kind of help this kind of subside a little bit?
Look, this is what I think that you lead by example. And what I said a little bit ago is talking to everybody. Once somebody goes into office and they are, politically affiliated, I am an R, I'm a D, I'm a red, I'm a blue, I'm a this or I'm a that, and you create this division, you create these others, that means people all of a sudden stop listening. Look, I don't know how to change this for the whole country, to be honest with you, but I know what I can do and do as an example for this district. And I am 100% convinced if I go in a way that is looking at compassion, with empathy, listening to the union workers of Brook Park, to the dairy farmers of Wayne, and making sure that they're all sitting at the table, all talking and trying to advocate in Washington, I will have a good approval rating. I think people will see that that this is a good way forward, and they might hopefully do the same thing in Washington and try to just work with the people instead of trying to work with just one ideology and against people. And I think that's a big problem. So, like, it's just to summarize, by bringing people together, making sure that everybody has a seat at the table, I think that's a good way forward for unity for the country, and hopefully we're very popular with that when we get into Washington, and people will copy that.
How would you handle the balance of looking out for your local constituents and also balancing the greater good of the nation?
Well, see, that's a very good question. I think that the local constituents is the job, right? Let's take a parliamentary system. Let's just say if you take something like the UK, you have all of these smaller political parties, and they have to find ways to work with each other or find common ground to create a coalition to get something done, right? To get the majority, right? I don't think the founders of our Constitution thought that a Democrat from New York would think the same way as a Democrat from Ohio or a Democrat from Wisconsin. They thought that by having you working for your region, for your being a representative of your district, that you will take your district to Washington. And that's what I plan to do.
That's good. Now, I know what do you think would be your top 3 priorities if elected to office?
Top 3 priorities of elected office. Number 1 is going to be onshoring our supply chain. I think that's the number 1 thing that we have to start doing right now. We see that we have, during COVID, we couldn't get PPE. It was either in Italy or in China. We had to, who was making our ventilators? Nobody knew. So we had to, have companies and talk to companies to make ventilators. That was a huge problem. We need to onshore our supply chain. We need to make things here. And we have to do that and capitalize off of these new emerging industries that are coming out. And I think that we're starting to see that with the Intel plant and GM and Ford and EVs and different kind of manufacturing, but we have to double down on that. I think that's the number 1 thing that we really have to do. Number 2 is we have to protect women's reproductive rights. That was a huge thing that showed that people's rights can be stripped away, and women's rights and reproductive rights were stripped away. I'm going to go in, and if I am elected, I am going to advocate and hopefully fight for reproductive rights. And the third thing is, again, I really want to keep bringing this back to our district and our community, is uniting, not dividing. We have to stop arguing, and we have to start finding solutions. No, I'm not saying that we are not going to, we're going to agree on everything. But we have to start sitting at the table, go have a couple beers, maybe argue a little bit, but wake up the next morning, know that we're all Ohioans, we're all looking out for these kitchen table issues, and go to Washington and fight for Ohio 7th.
Yeah. And another one of those kitchen table issues that you just mentioned is school funding. Mm-hmm. Always looking at different ways, being declared unconstitutional, different aspects of trying to do school funding. What are your thoughts in terms of trying to find an answer for that?
Look, again, this all goes back to jobs and business and onshoring our supply chain. I don't think that the downstream effects of something like the Intel plant coming over here to Ohio is huge. It's huge. They're talking about this is going to be a 10-year plan to get this thing constructed. We're talking about 3,000 pipe fitters. We're talking about thousands of iron workers, and we're going to have to get them from other places and other states to come over here to build this plant. We have kids that are in school right now, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, that when this plant is done, this is going to be the place they're going to work. Mm-hmm. Isn't that cool? Yeah. And so what does that mean for the downstream? That means there's going to be more businesses. There's going to be hotels and restaurants and bars and workers and jobs, and people are going to be paying taxes. That's how we bring back school funding, is we bring the jobs, the real middle-class jobs that pay good money. We're talking some of these trade jobs that are going to be going in Intel are going to be paying $100,000 plus a year now. Not talking about 10 years from now, but now. That's going to bring money to our communities, money to our schools, money to our states. And so we got to onshore our supply chain and build things here.
Now you talk about the employees and workers right now, and that's a problem that's happening right now. Is where are the workers? That's right. Kind of the problem now going on. What do you think are some ideas or solutions you have, if elected, to address that issue?
Well, I think, again, I hate to harp on Intel so much, but I think that this is just the one domino that's going to fall on many dominoes. When Intel said that they're going to put their plant here, they said we're going to work with The Ohio State, that we're going to work with Kent State, Cleveland State, trade schools to start building, that infrastructure. Engineers, trade schools. We need to make the trades sexy again. For too long, we're saying everybody has to go to university and get some kind of university degree. And everybody's look down at the carpenters and the plumbers and the pipe fitters and so on and so forth. Make the trades sexy again. And I think that's where we're going to get the workers. So like I said, the kid that's sitting there at 8, 9, 10 years old right now in class, they're going to go into high school and they're going to look at these jobs that are being created for $100,000+ a year, and they're going to be in the trades. They're going to be pipe fitters. They're going to be plumbers and electricians and so on and so forth. That's where we're going to get our workforce from, is creating hope. Intel created hope. These new companies coming over here are going to create hope. We're going to find our workers because they're going to pay well and they're going to be in demand.
Now, in terms of leadership and skill set, what type of leadership skills and just skills you have that feel differentiate you from your opponent?
Well, I started working when I was 16 years old. I've worked my whole time, my whole life, and I've worked very hard to, be sitting here, on the ballot. I've managed 200+ employees, millions of dollars a year. I've held positions such as GM, assistant GM, director of operations. I'm a 2-time small business owner with one very modest exit, but with one exit. And I've signed the back of my checks the whole time, but also have understood when you are leading staff and people that how important your employees are and how important the workers are and how important it is to create a very cohesive company culture that achieves your goal. I have worked my whole life since I was 16 years old. Plus, I went to the University of Hawaii for my undergrad, at Taiwan University for my master's degree, and learned foreign language. I studied at Beijing University to learn Chinese. So my whole life was all about working, creating teams, and leading teams, and to create results.
Great. Again, speaking with Matthew Diemer, the congressional candidate for the 7th District. And Matthew, I appreciate you being part of the process and answering my questions.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure I give you the moment in case I forgot to ask something or something you want to let our voters and viewers know. I want to turn the mic over to you and give you that opportunity.
Well, I think that this election is a referendum on how we want the country to move forward. I think and I hope that I have expressed to you that I want to do this by uniting, not dividing. I want to bring people up to the table, all Ohioans over in Ohio 7th, and advocate for you in Washington, D.C. And the only way we're going to do that is by getting people into office that, 1, has the experience of leading people. Number 2, has the will to make sure that we are bringing people together. And number 3 is fighting for the rights that we want to hold on to as a nation. So please check us out on our website, diemerforcongress.com. That's DIEMER for Congress.com. And when I get to Washington, I promise you that we will advocate for this district, bring jobs back to this district, and make sure that we're uniting, not dividing.
Perfect. Thank you again, Matthew Diemer, the congressional candidate for the 7th District. Thank you for your time today, and I wish you the best of luck this November.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.